Thank you for listening to my presentation today. My name is Bethany McLaughlin. I'm a PhD student at the University of Warwick, and today I'll be talking about a study titled Video Conferencing Support Groups for Carers of People Living with Dementia, Reflections on Online Support Groups in Lockdown. So for those of us who need an explanation of when lockdown was here in the UK, here is a timeline of the COVID-19 restrictions that were in effect during 2020 and 2021. The UK went through 3 national lockdowns due to COVID-19, starting in March 2020 and ending in July 2021. As people in the UK were required to stay at home and not to interact with people outside of their household during the majority of this time, this was an isolating and difficult time for many carers of people living with dementia. Between March 2020 and May 2021, support groups were not permitted to meet face-to-face, taking away a source of support that many carers had been relying on. And so, during lockdown, many support groups decided to move online to continue to support their members. And we were interested in finding out how this process went and whether online support groups could be a helpful way of supporting carers even outside of lockdown. The data collection for this study took place during March and April of 2021, during the UK's 3rd national lockdown and 15 months into the pandemic. We wanted to hear from carers of people living with dementia to explore their experiences with online support groups during lockdown and to identify factors that would influence their ability to access online support groups in the future. This is so that we could gain an understanding of carer preferences about support groups and to make recommendations about how to implement support groups effectively. So to do this, we used a convergent mixed methods approach made up of an online questionnaire that took around 10 minutes to complete, and semi-structured interviews with participants that volunteered that lasted around 45 to 60 minutes and took place through Microsoft Teams. Interviews were analysed through thematic analysis. Participants for this study were recruited from support groups from around the UK and Ireland and through a service called Join Dementia Research. In total, 39 carers responded to the questionnaire, and of these, 31 were female and 8 were male, and 27 out of the 39 participants were over the age of 61. And 16 participants volunteered to take part in interviews. The participants in this study had all previously been a member of a face-to-face support group, as this would allow participants to reflect on their experiences with face-to-face and online support and discuss their preferences or the pros and cons of each approach. Firstly, I will go over the results from the questionnaire. Participants were asked whether they found online or face-to-face support groups more convenient, more enjoyable and/or helpful, and for their overall preference. So here, the blue bars are participants who thought face-to-face groups were more convenient. The green bars are people who thought that online groups were more convenient, and the pink bars are the participants who had no preference. So the graph shows that the majority of participants reported that they found online support groups more convenient than face-to-face groups, while finding face-to-face groups more enjoyable, and they also had an overall preference for face-to-face groups. When asked whether they would be interested in attending online support group sessions when the pandemic is over, 10% of participants only wanted to attend online support group sessions going forward. 66% of participants wanted a mixture of face-to-face sessions and online sessions, and 20% of participants only wanted to attend face-to-face sessions. Through interviews, we explored participants' experiences with support groups and barriers to accessing face-to-face and online support. I will now present the findings from the interview portion of this study through the following 2 themes: perceptions of online support and preferences for future support. As none of the participants in this study had attended an online support group prior to lockdown, many participants reported experiencing a learning curve when they first started attending an online support group. Whether this be around getting used to using technology in general, getting used to using video conferencing software, or learning the protocols of taking part in a meeting online, such as waiting for your turn to speak and knowing when to mute yourself. Most of the carers in this study overcame this learning curve and were able to appreciate taking part in online support group sessions. However, some carers were not able to adapt and felt that technology was too large of a barrier to continue taking part in online support group sessions. Carers appreciated the convenience of being able to take part in online support groups from home, and this was particularly important for those who struggled to attend face-to-face support group sessions. Prior to lockdown, carers spoke of the difficulties of getting access to respite care while they attended a support group, or the difficulty of getting the person they care for out of the house and to a support group. These difficulties could be distressing or lead to carers missing sessions. Online support groups can overcome these barriers and are more accessible for some. However, some carers felt that online support groups lacked a personal touch, which meant that they considered them less enjoyable than face-to-face support groups. I'll now discuss some of the preferences about support groups that were expressed in the interviews. In the questionnaire, 75% of participants indicated that they would be interested in online support groups or a mixture of online and face-to-face support after lockdown ended. This view was also represented in interviews, and carers indicated that a hybrid approach, where the group meets face-to-face and has an option for members to join in remotely through video conferencing, or a mixed approach, where some of their sessions are online and some are face-to-face, could both be viable. They saw this as a convenient way of supplementing face-to-face support to help those who find it difficult to attend face-to-face. Some carers lacked experience with technology, which made participating in online support groups difficult and sometimes upsetting for them. There was an interest in training around using technology so that they could feel more confident in accessing online support in the future and would be able to benefit more from online support. Finally, it is important to consider that some carers were not interested in online support groups after lockdown. The participants had various reasons for this, such as getting out of the house being a major component about why they chose to attend a support group, feeling that online support is cold or they missed out on face-to-face contact with others, or due to a lack of confidence with technology. It is therefore important to ensure that face-to-face support is still readily available where it's safe to do so, to ensure that these people are not excluded. So here are the 3 main takeaways from this study. First, online support groups can be a convenient way of supporting carers and are accessible for carers who find it difficult to attend face-to-face support groups. Secondly, carers indicated an interest in using hybrid or mixed approaches to support groups even outside of lockdown, and this could be an important target for future research. And lastly, carers indicated that they were interested in training around technology, and this could help them accessing online support groups in the future. Providing this sort of training could be a target for organisations that aim to support carers of people living with dementia. So we've now reached the end of this presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them in the comments of this video, or you can reach me via email or social media. My details are on the screen. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.